It just hit 90 degrees in Texas, and in 72 hours, it is going to feel like February again. Not slowly, not gradually. A 50 to 60 degree temperature drop in a single day. For some locations, that is not a cold front. That is a weather ambush, and it is happening right now. While severe storms are already tearing through the Midwest, while tornadoes are already on the ground, while freeze warnings are already active, all at the same time, this is the most volatile weather pattern the United States has seen all spring, and it is not done. Here's what happened first. Before the cold came, the heat showed up. Record-shattering heat. Mid-April 2026, Baltimore hit a 90-degree day, the earliest since 2013. Washington, D.C., same story. Nashville was challenging daily records. Charlotte was threatening a record that has stood since 1896. Atlanta broke records multiple days in a row. Parts of the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic saw July and August temperatures in April. The atmosphere was loaded, unstable, soaking in Gulf moisture. Dew points climbing into the 70s, and then cold front arrived. AccuWeather called this a shift that feels more like a changing of the seasons. Widespread summer-like highs in the 80s and 90s, followed by overnight lows typical of late winter. Some spots dropping into the 20s. For some locations, a 50 to 60 degree temperature drop. That is not a weather transition, as a weather collision. And when warm air and cold air collide with that kind of energy difference, you do not get clouds, you get destruction. Here's what this cold front is already doing right now. As of April 24, 2026. Freeze warnings are in effect early this morning for many valley locations in southeastern Washington, southern Idaho, western Colorado, and Utah. Freezes were noted as far south as the central high plains, while patchy snow lingers on the northern plains. In April, patchy snow on the plains. On the plains, yesterday's outbreak of severe weather led to scattered wind and hail damage from north-central Oklahoma into eastern sections of Kansas and Nebraska. And here's the detail that should alarm every farmer watching this. Temperatures dropped as low as 21 degrees Fahrenheit in Michigan's fruit belt, levels that can damage blooming fruit trees and reduce production potential. 21 degrees in April on fruit trees that were already blooming, because the heat in the first half of April pushed them 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And now the freeze is catching them with their guard completely down. But here is what is not making most headlines. The tornado outbreak happened before the cold front even finished moving through. On the night of April 23rd, Enid, Oklahoma, a powerful tornado ripped through Enid, Oklahoma just before 8:30 p.m. It's on April 23rd, 20 to 6. It was rated EF4, not EF1, not EF2, EF4. The second highest rating on the scale. Wind speeds between 166 and 200 miles per hour. Vance Air Force Base announced it will remain closed until further notice as crews work to restore power and water. United States Air Force Base, closed by a tornado. At least 40 homes were damaged in the Gray Ridge area. Homes swept completely from their foundations. Officials said some residents were trapped in homes and storm shelters. This happened Thursday night. This week is just getting started, because here's what is coming next. More than 55 million. Americans across the Midwest and Mississippi Valley are in the threat zone for a brewing severe weather outbreak expected to develop on Monday. 55 million people in the crosshairs for Monday. A severe threat shifts northeast by Monday, impacting an area from northern Iowa and southwest Wisconsin down toward Memphis. A strong cold front will move across this area, bringing the chance for severe storms capable of producing damaging wind gusts, large hail, and tornadoes by Monday afternoon. And then the threat continues into Monday night, into Tuesday, into next week. A second storm system will traverse the western U.S. during the weekend, then reach the upper Great Lakes states by Tuesday, leading to a multi-day severe weather outbreak across the plains, Midwest and Mid-South. Two systems, back to back. Now let us talk about what is driving this, because this is the part they are not explaining on local news. Above your head right now, far above it, something unusual is happening in the stratosphere. A residual polar vortex core and the stratospheric final warming are shaping the April 2026 weather pattern, bringing a significant risk of late-season cold and snow across the United States and Canada. Here's what that means in plain language. All winter long, the polar vortex spins over the Arctic like a wall of cold air. It keeps the brutal cold locked up north. When it is strong, we get mild winters in the lower 48. When it breaks down, cold air escapes south. And right now, it is doing something specific and dangerous.
Ow.
The polar vortex is dissolving, going into its summer slumber mode. But it is not dissolving cleanly. It is leaving behind fragments. Cold core remnants. Cold core fragments are free to wander around the mid-latitudes without the stratosphere locking them into the north. That is what is dropping temperatures 50 to 60 degrees in a single day. That is what is putting freeze warnings in Utah and Idaho in late April. That is what is producing snow on the plains right now. A fragment of the polar vortex wandering south in spring. And here is the agricultural damage that is already being counted. A late-week freeze struck much of the plains and Midwest, with temperatures dropping below 25 degrees Fahrenheit in several regions. This cold snap followed a period of record-setting warmth, creating a dangerous combination for crops. Here's the specific damage sequence. The heat came first. Temperatures surged to 90 degrees Fahrenheit or higher across parts of the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic. That accelerated crop development prematurely. Plants pushed forward. Buds opened early. Fruit trees bloomed weeks ahead of schedule. Then, the freeze came. The sudden return to freezing conditions increases the likelihood of freeze injury and long-term yield losses, particularly for wheat already weakened by drought. And this is not just wheat, corn, soybeans, fruit trees, early planted specialty crops, little of them exposed. These conditions have significantly delayed planting progress for corn and soybeans, reducing the number of days suitable for fieldwork and increasing the risk of replanting, an added burden on already elevated input costs. Replanting costs money. Delayed planting reduces yield. Reduced yield raises prices. At the grocery store.
For everyone. And here is the drought problem nobody is talking about, alongside the freeze. While the northern tier deals with freezes and flooding, the southern tier is burning. More than 98% of Arkansas is currently affected by drought, along with much of the Atlantic coast from Florida to Virginia. Yes. 98% of Arkansas, drought.
Critically dry conditions on the central and southern high plains are leading to an elevated wildfire threat, along with significant stress on rangeland pastures and winter wheat. To dry here, to wet there, freezing here, record heat there. This is not normal spring volatility. The convergence of flooding in the Midwest, persistent drought in the plains, and damaging freezes across key growing regions is shaping an increasingly volatile start to the 2026 season, with direct implications for commodity prices, farm income, and supply chain stability. Now let us look at what 2026 has done so far to the Midwest, because this is the statistic that tells the whole story. The Storm Prediction Center has outlooked at least part of the NWS Chicago forecast area for severe weather. 15 days so far in 2026, including an unusual number of days at level 3 or higher. Average for this period, 4 to 8 days. They're already at 15. As of April 19th, NWS Chicago has issued 128 severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. That is a record. Through April 19th, the highest ever recorded. As of April 19th, there have been at least 20 tornadoes in the NWS Chicago forecast area. And this was before the Enid EF4, before Thursday night's outbreak, before the 55 million person threat on Monday. Here's your city-by-city breakdown of what this cold blast is doing. Temperatures are forecast to fall too near or below freezing by Monday morning in Madison, Wisconsin, Lansing, Michigan, Binghamton, New York by Tuesday morning. As colder air expands southward and eastward, near 2 below freezing temperatures are expected in Cleveland, Shenandoah, Virginia, Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Worcester, Massachusetts. Pockets of freezing conditions may also reach coastal areas including Long Island, New York, and southern New Jersey. This is the Northeast Corridor, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, the most densely populated stretch of land in America, dropping toward freezing. In the last week of April, if you planted anything in the last 2 weeks because the weather told you spring was here, cover it tonight. But here is the bigger picture hiding inside the pattern. This cold blast is not just a spring inconvenience. It is a symptom. The most common way to monitor the stratospheric polar vortex is by looking at wind speeds around the polar circle. Weak or even negative winds indicate a complete reversal and/or dissolve of the polar vortex in the stratosphere. The stratospheric winds around the polar circle right now, near zero, the vortex is dissolving, releasing cold fragments into the lower atmosphere, and those fragments are going to keep wandering. Due to atmospheric patterns in the northern Pacific, additional cool periods are possible later in April and into May. This does not end this week. This is the pattern for the next several weeks. Cold front, warm spike, cold front, severe weather with each transition. Over and over, till the atmosphere stabilizes. And here's what is coming behind all of this. Hurricane season, the Pacific is already showing favorable conditions. A strong El Niño is developing. It's the same atmospheric pattern that is delivering these cold blasts and these tornado outbreaks is also setting up the moisture highway that hurricane season needs. Once this cold pattern relaxes, and it will, the warm moisture from the Gulf and the Pacific will flood back in. The hurricane season that is already forecast to be active will have an environment ready and waiting for it. This is not two separate stories. The cold blast and the hurricane season are part of the same atmospheric transition. Here's what you need to do right now. If you are in the tornado threat zone for Monday, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, Missouri, Tennessee, take it seriously. This system has already produced an EF4 in Oklahoma. It has already closed a U.S. Air Force base. It has already trapped residents in storm shelters, and it is moving northeast toward 55 million people. If you're a farmer in the Midwest, the Northeast, or the Mid-Atlantic, the freeze risk is real. The incoming cold may pose a risk to annual flowers that were planted during the recent warm period and fruit trees that are currently blooming. Cover what you can tonight, not tomorrow morning. Tonight. If you are on the central or southern plains, the wildfire danger is not going away. Dry conditions, plus gusty winds behind the front. That is the combination that starts fires. Have your awareness up. Here's the summary of what this week actually is. Not a cold front. It's not a typical spring weather system. A full atmospheric reversal. From 90-degree heat to 20-degree freezes. From record warmth to record cold warnings. From record-setting severe weather outbreaks to more severe weather coming Monday. A polar vortex fragment, wandering south, dragging winter back into late April, hitting crops that thought spring had finally arrived, hitting farmers who already planted, hitting cities that already opened their outdoor restaurants, hitting 55 million Americans who have a severe weather threat Monday, while the agriculture sector is already counting freeze losses, while Vance Air Force Base is still closed, while 40 homes in Enid sit damaged from Thursday night, and while another system forms in the west this weekend, building strength, moving east. The cold blast is here. The severe weather is not finished. The freeze warnings are active right now, and the next round is already on the radar. Stay aware, stay prepared. And if you are anywhere from Kansas to Maine this week, check your forecast before you go to bed tonight. Not in the morning, tonight, because this pattern changes fast. And it has already shown you this week exactly what it is capable of.